We are about a week away from the start of the 2026 Formula One season. Which team is going to win it all? Which driver will be the world champion? Let's predict the 2026 Formula One season. This is an interesting year because we got new engine regulations, new car regulations, and then of course another team joining the grid. Cadillac Andretti Racing officially on the grid now with Valtteri Bottas and Checo Perez driving for them. So a lot more competition, new things, clean slate. Things are about to get kind of strange. So this is going to be a little more difficult to predict given that pretty much a blank slate's occurring for the 2026 season. So who will be 11th out of the 11 teams? Well, in my thoughts, it has to be Aston Martin with the poor engine, GP2 engine, and just an overall struggling car. It's been falling apart. I called it tendernism because Adrian Newey cooked the car. And yeah, it just seems like it's not in a good place. Will they improve? I hope so. But at this time, and from my prediction, I don't think they're going to be able to fix the car as quickly as the other cars are going to be developing throughout the season. So P11 will have to be Aston Martin. Then in 10th, just ahead of them, I think has to be Cadillac Andretti Racing. Of course, they're new to the grid. They're expected to not perform as well as the other teams that have a wealth of experience. They've had the previous season and so forth to train the car, to work on the car, to do some testing. So I think Cadillac will struggle at the start, but they do have a wealth of experience, experienced engineers, experienced workers, and of course experienced drivers who's going to give a lot of good feedback to the team. So I think Cadillac Andretti may have a better second half of the season. I think they're going to really test the car throughout the first half and then really start bringing in insane upgrades throughout the rest of the season. So I'm hoping that they will score a few points, but ahead of Aston Martin in P10. Then in P9, I think our tractor of the grid from last season, Alpine, will be there in P9. Gasly Colapinto duo, I think, is a solid duo, but I think the car is just not in the right place. And I also don't think the work environment around that team is up to the par of some world championship teams. The cohesion is just lacking a bit, I think. Stellar drivers, but I just think they are not getting the full support of the garage to really push the car forward. Now, one upside of the Alpine garage is that they're no longer relying on a Renault engine. They're moving over to a new supplier, Mercedes. So it's going to be an interesting shift, but I also think that a more reliable engine like the Mercedes engine is going to allow them to have a little better performance throughout the season. So I'm thinking they'll outscore Cadillac and Aston Martin, but be slightly behind the rest of the midfield. Then let's turn to the sort of the lower end of the midfield in P8. I think it'll be Audi. I think Audi had a very strong performance in the previous season. Of course, they were called Kick Sauber until Audi took over for this season. They have stellar drivers, Bortoleto and Hülkenberg. They looked very solid in the previous season. But again, I think the transition to a whole new regulation, a regulation where there's a new engine and a new car, I think they're going to be struggling a bit as well. We've seen them struggle throughout the previous couple seasons, and Valtteri Bottas in one of his interviews said he was very happy leaving Kick Sauber, so maybe there was some kind of internal environment that isn't conducive for good upgrades. But I think with Binotto and then Hülkenberg and Bortoleto, Wheatley as well, I think the team is starting to gel, and I think they will outperform the back end of the grid. So I think they'll score about P8. So here we go with P7, slightly ahead of the Audi team. I think it has to be RB, right? RB had a solid season last season, and of course they are slightly behind. I say slightly, but they are much behind the other team that is under their umbrella, the Red Bull team. But I think their drivers of Lawson and Lindblad, I think, will be a solid duo. I'm a little surprised Lindblad got the spot. I thought Yuki would have been demoted to the second seat driving with Lawson, but I don't know what the dynamics are like in the garage there. So Lindblad, obviously a rookie coming into this season, I think will struggle with the car early doors. It's a big step up from F2 to F1, and of course with all the regulation changes changes that we keep repeating, he's going to find it a little more difficult to adjust, I think. So he's going to underperform in points, but Lawson is a solid driver, as we've seen in that RB car. So I think Lawson will do the carrying. Obviously, he's going to be the first driver, but I think the team will score enough points to be able to secure a P7 finish. So P6 now, so pretty much solid in the midfield. I'd say we could potentially see Williams being there. Williams had a good rise throughout the season last time, and we see that trajectory continuing. I think Albon and Sainz have become really strong teammates, really strong drivers as well, as long as the car held up. And I think James Vowles did a stellar job of molding a team that can work through ruffles and problems. Now, granted, they did have a slow start to the season. They missed Spain, of course, due to some delays in production. So that is a bit of a worry, but I think they'll have a solid enough of a car to try and push for a P6, like a solid midfield. Maybe I'm too hopeful. Maybe like I'm delusional with the hope of Williams doing really well this season, but I think in my mind it could be possible that they score just under the halfway mark in P6. And moving up to P5, I think just ahead of the Williams team will be the Haas team. The Haas team looked pretty solid with the change in ownership after Günther Steiner left. I think Komatsu had a very strong performance as team principal, and he really gelled a team together that really worked through a lot of problems, and I think Haas have been on that upward trajectory throughout the previous season. Now granted, we are at a clean slate, new regulations and all that, but I think they have the performance. They also have Behrman and Ocon, who are pretty solid drivers, more like Behrman is, but I think they'll be able to score enough points together to be able to secure a P5 finish. And I think it'll be close. I think P5, P6, P7 will be like within 10 points of each other. I think it'll be a close season. And here we go with the top 4 now. I think the top 4 is going to be a close race. Not gonna lie. I think it's going to be within 30 points from P4 to P1. So it's going to be pretty much one race victory, maybe a little more difference between them. And I think in 4th is going to be Mercedes. I think their car showed good performance, good pace and whatnot, but I still think they're going to encounter some issues with the engine, and I think performance wise other teams look a little more solid than them. So yeah, it's going to be a battle of engineering and also a battle of who's going to keep their cool. I think Mercedes showed strong driving from Antonelli and Russell, but I think Russell's going to want that title a little too much and cause some issues that may cost them a lot of points. I think Antonelli's going to shine as well throughout the season, but I still think they're going to lack a little bit of performance to really score those vital, crucial points when they matter, and unfortunately dropped to P4. Now P3 is going to be an interesting one, and I think that's going to be Red Bull. I think Red Bull are going to be P3 mainly because of the second seat curse. We have seen so many drivers, talented drivers, get that second seat and then just fumble massively, because I think there's that some kind of curse on that second seat with the team really focusing around Verstappen instead of the second driver. And of course, this year Red Bull have brought in a new driver, Isaac Hadjar, and he has a blank slate for sure. So I hope that I'm completely wrong with my prediction here, but I think Hadjar is still gonna experience the struggle that the second drivers have always had. Daniel Ricciardo was the closest one, I think, to fight Max Verstappen in that second seat, but also I think Checo Perez showed that he was capable of it. And then after that one season, it just faltered. And ever since, like, I think a lot of drivers, they're talented for sure. Pierre Gasly still on the grid. Checo Perez returning. You have Alex Albon shining at Williams. Like, they're good drivers. It's not that they put really bad drivers in there, but it just seems like the team wants to circle around Max Verstappen, which costs them so many points. I think it was the same last season as well. Only supporting Max Verstappen, yes, it helped him make a massive comeback towards the end of the season, but it cost him so many points that it dropped them down to 3rd, right? And so I think P3 is reasonable for that team unless they figure something out to bring both of them to the podium in a consistent manner. So runner-up in the constructor standings, I think, is going to be McLaren. I think McLaren have some ruffles they need to iron out, and I still think that they're riding the highs of the previous season a little too much. Championship winners, and then drivers championship or constructors championship winners and drivers championship winners. And I think Piastri is still a little upset with how things unfolded last season. So I still think there's going to be that tension that Zach Brown doesn't seem to have his grips on, because we saw that throughout last season. Piastri and Lando, they really had this fight going on, and I don't think Zach Brown nor Andrea Stella had a grip on that situation, and I still think that persists today. So that is unfortunate, and I think it's going to cost them some vital points throughout the season, only bringing them up to P2. And for my Constructors Championship, maybe it's the delusion, maybe it's the hope that is driving this, but I think Ferrari might win it this year. I think it might be our year. It might be Ferrari's year. The car looks good. Preseason looked good. They're testing new things. Fred Vasseur has shown some good progress with the team in the previous seasons, but I think with a clean slate, this might be the year. The engine looks strong. They're testing out very interesting new concepts, the flipping wing and whatever have you. Engine looks strong, starts look strong. Now it's a matter of, can that engine survive? Will the durability be there that we haven't seen so much yet? Sure, they did a lot of running in testing, but that's different than race day. Also, sandbagging is a thing, right? So teams don't want to give away their true performance too early. Maybe Ferrari showed them their true performance, but if they're not, then that means that Ferrari's going to be whizzing through circuits. So hopefully it's going to be Ferrari's year. I think Ferrari P1 is a reasonable expectation. So let's turn to the driver standings. So I found this tier maker of the 2026 F1 season. We got our drivers on the bottom here, and we have our ranking starting from the world champion, P2, P3, P4, P5, and then P6 to 10, P11 to 15, P16 to 20, and then P21 to 22. So what would I think? Well, I think unfortunately Lance Stroll is going to suffer and be at the back here. I think the car isn't looking good. It's melting apart, and I think Fernando Alonso has shown his disapproval of the car. So I think Alonso is going to show his magic for the experienced driver he is, but Stroll I think is going to suffer a lot. And I think Lindblad might end up back here as well. I think Lindblad might get a couple points just ahead of Stroll, maybe one or two, but I'm not quite sure if it's going to be possible that Stroll outscores Lindblad. I think the RB car is still going to be better. Then in P20, I think Colapinto will be there. Maybe 1 or 2 points as well, maybe 0. I think I think a lot of these people will be zeros, but there is a little bit of hope that perhaps they'll score some points. But I think Colapinto will struggle with the car, and doesn't seem like the team is cohesive enough to allow for consistent point scoring, so he's going to suffer a lot and be in P20. Then I think it's going to be on Alonso, unfortunately, him scoring 1 or 2 points. And yeah, unless the car just astronomically improves by the mid-season, which I don't think it will. Or maybe Adrian Newey is just sandbagging to the extreme, and we're being played totally, and I've become a clown. But I think Alonso will outperform Stroll, but not score as many points in the tractor that he's been given. Then I think it's going to be our Cadillac duo of Perez and Bottas. Will Bottas outscore Perez? I think so. I think Bottas will outscore Perez. So this will be P22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17. So yeah, P18 and 17 for 2 Cadillac drivers, scoring maybe 1 or 2 points throughout the season at best. And I think, of course, they will together outperform the Aston Martins, as I said in the constructor standings portion of this video. But it's a practice season, right? They just entered the sport, and I think they will try to struggle or try to find the rhythm, but struggle in the early doors kind of vibes. So yeah, that'll be where they are, and I think they will stay on for another year to really improve, and I think they will improve given how the season will unfold. And then of course I'll add Bortoleto as P16. I think scoring 1 or 2 points as well. Solid driver in the previous season, but I think with Audi also struggling with the new regulations, I think he's going to underperform compared to Hülkenberg, but I still think he'll have a solid season sitting there. And then I think we'll see Pierre Gasly in P15 scoring a handful of points throughout the season. I think the Alpine will struggle, but I think he'll carry the team. Obviously, he's carried the team last season as well, but I think he's going to be in the P15 range because the car is going to underperform. I don't think it's him, but rather the car that's going to underperform, but I still think he'll be a solid driver nonetheless, and yeah, be in a good position in the driver's standing. Then again, I think Hülkenberg will be just ahead of him, scoring those points that bring Audi up a couple positions in the constructor standings. Again, very tight battle in the back, I think, but I still think Audi will be outperforming Alpine, and they will be outperforming the rest of the backfield and be in this position. I think Hülkenberg is going to score more points than Bortoleto, but I think the duo are strong enough to collect enough points to secure a decent finish in the constructors, in the lower end at least. Then I think Esteban Ocon is going to sit there in P12, is it now? 15, 14, 13, P13. I think that's going to be Esteban Ocon. Solid driver, making points wherever he can, but I just don't see him being as good as Behrman this year. And then I think it's going to be Lawson. I think Lawson will be right there in P12, just ahead of Esteban Ocon. Car's going to perform, and he's going to score the more points to be ahead of Lindblad by a solid margin. And then I think Behrman is going to be right there in P11. So it's going to be a tight race here as well, I think, amongst these drivers. Tight battling. I think it's going to be Hajar in P10. Again, the second driver curse is going to hit them, and it's going to be pretty much a Max Verstappen racing team, and Hajar is going to struggle. It's going to bring him a handful of points, I think, solid number of points, but not enough to really bring him up in the standings. So I think he's going to be just shy, just on the edge of the top 10. Then I think it's going to be our duo of Sainz and Albon. Not sure who's going to be where. I think they're very solid drivers together. One side of me thinks Sainz is going to outperform Albon, and then the other side says Albon's going to outperform Sainz. So I think it's going to be tight, but I think Sainz is going to outperform Albon by a smidge, maybe 1 or 2 points, maybe more, I don't know, but I still think Sainz is going to outperform Albon to secure P8. Then we're going to have Antonelli in P7. I think he's a solid driver, going to score a solid number of points, but I don't think he's going to really outperform George Russell, who was the better driver, and I think Russell will get just above him in P6. So yeah, he's going to try, I think, to try and win the championship, but I just don't think the car is there, and I think Russell is going to be a little too ambitious at times and then lose points in crucial moments and suffer a lot due to that. Then in P5, I think it's going to be Lando Norris. I think he's still too hyped up from the previous win, I think. I don't know. Something about the car just doesn't seem like it's going to outperform the rest of the field. I think the rest of the field still has a better car than the McLaren, but I think Lando Norris will be good enough for P5 with Piastri P4. That's just my prediction. Yeah. It's just going to be tight between Piastri and Lando Norris, of course, but I think they're going to lose significant points due to their own personal interests. Piastri upset about the team, Lando Norris living the high from the previous season. It's going to come together because I think Zach Brown and Andrea Stella don't have the team fully grasped, and yeah, I think that's going to be what occurs throughout the season. P3 is Lewis Hamilton. It pains me to say this, but I think Lewis is going to underperform compared to his teammate Charles Leclerc, despite having a good car. I just think it's going to be a tight race between Lewis and the rest of the field, rest of the top 5, but I think he's going to just miss out a little bit. And I think the team is also a little shying away from Hamilton, like keeping a little distance from the last season. I kind of felt that, but I mean, Charles Leclerc's a golden boy. It's like the Max Verstappen of the team. And I think Lewis Hamilton might suffer from that a couple times. Maybe also asked to give up certain positions if they are in a strong positions to allow for their golden boy Charles Leclerc to, you know, really have an advantage throughout the season. Then I think just shy of the championship, Max Verstappen. I think he's going to be able to push for world champion, but I think the car performance is still slightly worse than the Ferrari. Maybe it's the delusion talking, but I think Max Verstappen will put up a high fight, very strong fight, but not strong enough to compete against the Ferrari, because I think Charles Leclerc will be crowned champion is eventually to this year. Like, it's gonna happen. This is our year, right? 2026 is our year. The stars are aligned. Charles Leclerc will win it. We're going to put up those Pastor Leclerc posters all everywhere in the world. Imola and Emilia Romagna is going to be fully, glued out with Charles Leclerc posters, because it's gonna be his year. I think car looks solid. Hopefully he's gonna drive well. He just got married and things are gonna look up for him. This is his year. This is our year, and I hope that Ferrari win the world championship with the driver and constructors both in their hand. Now, this is just a random prediction, right? We know nothing. Essentially, anything can happen. That's the joy of Formula One. Team sandbag. It could be that Aston Martin have the fastest car on the grid, but they just didn't want to show it. They intentionally broke the car to make it look like it's falling apart. Cadillac could be, underperforming as well when they have possibly a rocket ship. Anything can happen this year, really. So this is just a wild prediction, just off the top of my head, just based off of things we've seen so far in preseason testing and all the rumors on the grid and social media. So take it with a grain of salt. What do you think? I'd love to hear your comments down below. Predictions could be wild or could be safe. I went with a slightly wild prediction with Ferrari having a dominant season, but anything could happen, which makes Formula One a joy that it is. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let's see what happens next weekend. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like, subscribe down below for more Formula One content, and I'll see you guys for a new video relatively soon. Take care.